Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. Today's guest is Cory McElhatton, a man whose life is defined by courage and the relentless pursuit of truth. Growing up in a small town in Wisconsin, Cory is the youngest of four, a product of the family roots and Midwest values. He served with unwavering loyalty in the United States Army from 2003 to 2017, facing the trials of combat, weight of survivor's guilt, and a hero's complex that followed him home. But Cory's journey didn't end with his military retirement. In a bold move, he left his job over a year ago to confront his mental health head-on and embrace a path of healing and self-discovery. Today, he's dedicated to helping other veterans as a volunteer for Next 18, a veteran-run nonprofit where he's building a trailer project, reconnecting with family, and finding new purpose on his own terms. With his heart on his sleeve, a rifle in his hand, and loyalty as his guide, Cory stands as proof that every scar has a story, every story has power. Cory McElhatton, welcome to Heroes Have Wings.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man, it's so good to see you. I just want to start off with that. I haven't seen you in a little bit, and man, once I saw you, I just get that big smile on my face, and it's just so good to see you, and I'm happy you're here today.
Yeah, it's been over 5 years since I've seen you.
Yeah. All right, so we start every show with this segment called Quick Hits. So I'm going to ask you two things. You're just going to pick one of them.
Okay, I'm ready.
First one, coffee or energy drinks?
Energy drinks.
City life or country life?
Country life.
Summer heat, winter cold?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a 50-50. I like them both.
Movies or books?
Movies.
Dog person, cat person?
Dogs all day long.
Beach vacation, mountain retreat?
Mountain retreat.
Wake up early, stay up late?
Wake up early.
Action movies or comedies?
That's another tough one. I like both.
Okay. Camping or road trip?
Road trip.
Texting or calling?
Calling.
All right, perfect. So we're going to start off early childhood. All right, so tell the audience where you grew up, what your family dynamic was like.
So I grew up in Kewaskum, Wisconsin, small town, 40 minutes north of Milwaukee. There's maybe 2,000 people here starting out, 1,800 when I was a young buck. Dad's side of the family, he's got 7 siblings. There was a huge family gathering every holiday. I mean, well over 30, 40 people when it was Christmas and Thanksgiving. Mom's side of the family, she's got one brother that was deceased before I was born, so I never got to meet that uncle. Both families very close, always there. My grandparents, you never left anybody home on a holiday, or if you knew somebody that was by themselves, you always brought them with. Door was always open. When I was a kid, we never locked our doors anywhere we went. It was great, man. You jumped on your bike, you rode around town, you came home when the street lights came on. You know, when you were a kid, you didn't sit around the house unless it was raining. Your butt was out the door and away you went. You know, you came home for lunch or you left.
Are your parents still married?
Yep, my mom and dad are still married.
Nice.
Both retired. My dad showed me great work ethic. My mom did too. When I was real little, my mom lost her eyesight. It's not cataracts. It was a degenerate eye disease that she had. And even though they told her after my first sister was born that if she kept having kids, she could lose it, Well, she wanted to have a family with 4 children, so that was their goal, and that's what they did. And right after I was born, it got worse. So, like, my mom lost most of her eyesight to the point where she had to go back to school, learn how to read Braille, and learn how to redo everything in life instead of sitting on Social Security and being lazy. My mom adapted, overcame, and showed resilience when I was 5, 6 years old.
You watching that as a young boy, how did that shape you to who you are today?
Watching my mom struggle was part of starting my hero complex because I didn't want to take all my problems to her because she had enough shit on her plate. But it just showed that you can adapt, you can change, you can strive to keep moving forward. I mean, my mom spent 20 some years trying to find research and development in that prospect, raising money and funds and doing walks and all kinds of stuff to help find a cure for what she has. And it was really a big stride.
Man, that's impressive. One commonality I'm seeing with all the guys that I'm talking to, and including myself, is when we got to a certain age, we didn't want to be a burden on our parents anymore. So we try to just move along with our life and get out of their hair so they can continue to do what they want to do. You watching your parents stay together. How long your parents been married for?
Oh hell, my brothers, I'm 43, my brother's 50, 51, 52 years.
Your parents being together that long, how did that shape you as a man? Because a lot of people don't have that blessing of having both parents. How did that help you become the man you are today and the husband you are today?
Well, my first marriage was 9 months, but you obviously you know my wife, Jason. You know Laura. She
Oh yeah. Shout out to Laura.
let's just say when shit hit the fan at Campbell, and that whole road in my struggles,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't take no shit. She put her foot down. She showed up at my appointments, and I didn't have a say so.
Yeah.
She went home. She did the research. She educated our girls. She educated herself. She built this house to be safe around me.
Yeah.
She built everything on how to help me. She built her own program on how to get me straight.
Damn.
I mean, she wasn't just a rock. She was straight up Superwoman, man. She was a steel rod in the ground
Yeah.
and a force to be reckoned with. There was no shit. And anybody that struggled with me, Danny, she put a rod in the ground and stuck one in his back and picked him up and hey, let's go. And when I say stuck one in his back, it wasn't a bad way; it was a good way. She was an enforcer for us. She downright just stuck it out.
Yeah, and that's good. Me knowing your story and everything you've been through, man, I think it was great that you had her as a wife because we need that, man. A lot of men that we struggle with the things we struggle with to have a woman like that in our life is it's a blessing, man. And like I said, shout out to Laura, and I'm forever grateful for all the great things she did for you to make sure you were okay. So, how was it growing up in that small town and watching your parents love each other, your mom dealing with her disease with her eyes, your dad being a hardworking guy? How was that with you growing up and then you deciding to join the military?
It was definitely a ride because small towns, everybody's in your business. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you couldn't wiggle a stick without somebody knowing my dad and aunt and uncle, my grandparents. I mean, everybody knows everybody. So, like every kid, how the hell does a parent find out when you do something dumb and you don't tell them? And that bullshit line of "I got eyes in the back of my head." Well, hell no, everybody knows everybody. It was great because, like, watching my mom struggles, my dad stopped everything to take her wherever she wanted to go. Yeah, he still did his hunting trips and shot trap with his buddies at night or did this or did that. And my mom still had her little separate life to do her thing. But whenever she needed something, my dad was always there, no matter what. He was always there. I took that into this marriage with Laura.
So, as a young man, you're sitting here watching and learning what selfless sacrifice is right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much, I mean, a lot of pressure went on my brother and my oldest sister and both my sisters to take care of me, but let alone take care of each other when he was working and my mom went back to school. But then when she came home and she got a job, he started his own business. So, I mean, they were supporting each other in dreams and hopes and goals. And yeah, I'll definitely say my sisters were there for me a lot. Both my sisters, got stuck having to pick up all the shit behind me, which I thank them and I'm glad they were there. And I thank my parents for the life I had because I ain't gonna lie, I was spoiled. I'm the youngest. Um, we all had a great life growing up. You know, I wish I was, I wish I had better bonds with my siblings, but what we have now is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll gladly take what we have now and never look back and regret a thing or ever shake my head twice at what we have and what we don't have. It's more what we have today than what we didn't have yesterday.
And that's what's important. You guys are close now.
And I think I get that because of this small town living. The way my grandparents raised all my aunt and uncles, the way my other grandparents raised my mom and my uncle Jim,
Yeah.
you put all that together and everything came to family first. Then it was work, then it was the fun, and then it was all the bullshit after. When I was a kid and there was a family project, all my aunt and uncles got together and, whether it was roofing a house or changing out a window on a house, everybody piled in for the weekend and grandma made lunch and my aunts jumped in to help make lunch. All the uncles and nieces and nephews, we were running tools being gophers. It was get it done, help save money. I got uncles that drywall. I got electricians in the family. We got plumbers, and we got a little bit of everything in our family. So, I mean, we're a walking little
Yeah.
construction company. My grandpa was a farmer. Both my grandpas grew up on farms.
So, Cory, who are the biggest influence in your life growing up?
I had three of them, and it would be definitely be my dad, my uncle John, and my uncle Rob.
How did they influence you become the man you are today and help raise you as a man as you started to make those decisions to join the military and move forward with life?
My dad, I mean, my dad, all he did was he worked. He worked. I mean, he's retired and he still works. But he's always around to help us. He's always that man just don't know how to sit still. He's always willing to help. He's always willing to do something. And it's amazing. I've never seen people put family first the way they always have. Biggest
Yeah.
struggle I had with my dad as a kid was I wanted to be a mechanic, and to him at that time was all about what's the best way to make money and how to make a ton of money, but what's going to be the greatest way to make money and be successful and have what you want when you want it. As I got older and started my time in the service, and even with the amazing great pay that we get in the service, you know, we were afforded to do a lot of opportunities and I was able to do things. And even if it wasn't making what, journeyman electrician makes now or high double digits, low six figures, it is what it is. It's not just about the money. It's what you can build and have in front of you. It's gonna make your castle and make you happy. My uncle John, he was my godfather, and he had a lot of one liners. He we called him Big John. He was definitely a true woodsman. He loved to hunt and fish, and he would take me every summer with him for a week, and I'd go to the job sites with him. He worked for a plumbing company building big wastewater treatment plants, and he was always one of my guys to talk to. But he had his own struggles in life. He grew up with arthritis. Guy lived through a car crash and a train, ruptured spleen. He was kind of like me in a way, or I was more like him in a way. I learned more things the hard way, not so much the easy way. Him and my dad were only a year apart. They did everything together in school and growing up. And then my uncle Rob, he was one of the younger brothers. he was always the older brother that I never had, or that I had, but because my brother had his own life. We're 7-year difference. So, like, my Uncle Rob, though, he took me everywhere with him. I went bear hunting with him. We rode 4-wheelers together. He used to race wheelers, so I went with him as a little guy. I'd spend weekends out by him, just hanging out, doing guy things, watching movies, shooting guns. He taught me how to shoot a bow. We'd go duck hunting together, or just go do stuff and hang out, and it was awesome. And his kid was, when his oldest son was born, he was my godchild, or is my godchild, and probably one of my best friends now. But biggest thing is, like, when I screwed up, I never got looked down at. It was always, what can you do to fix it? And what were you thinking? But it wasn't the disappointment look. It was the, get your head out your ass and let's figure this out, and let's get you going and back on the right path.
Yeah. I think that's important too. As a young man and you're growing up, you got those strong men in your life to lift you up and keep you on the right track and not just tear you down necessarily. So that was great that you had those men in your life. At what point did you realize you were going to join the military? And when you did, how did that conversation go with your parents?
I was kicked out of my mom and dad's house.
How did that happen, Corey?
I stole from them. I screwed up.
Oof.
Let's just throw the spade on the table. I ain't gonna lie, and I ain't gonna
Yeah.
deny it. I was dumb. I did dumb shit. 18, thought I was untouchable, but I burned some bridges with my folks. They couldn't trust me, so
Damn.
I got kicked out.
Looking back now, the man you are today, how does that make you feel that the two people that loved you so much and provided you such a great childhood growing up, that you let them down?
It sucks in a way, but we talked about it, and now we laugh about it, and
Yeah, yeah,
roll
yeah.
your eyes and think, how dumb were you? How can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? But honestly, I mean, I did it. I can't change it. I learned from my stupidity, so all I
Yeah.
can do is explain to my kids, hey, my dumb ass did this. Don't do it. You're gonna get caught.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need eyes in the back of my head. I don't need someone looking over my shoulder. You're gonna get busted. It's gonna come around.
Good thing is y'all got a good relationship now, so that's the most important thing. That's just a true testament of your parents, right? They just forgave you, and now you guys are just moving forward with life, and life is going good together. How did you decide that you were going to join the military, and did you even tell your parents, or were you just like, I'm joining, I'm going, and then they were like, where are you at?
No, they knew. They knew when I signed the papers. Living with my cousin about 15 minutes from my mom and dad's place, and a girl that my cousin was dating, her brother-in-law was in the reserves at the time, and he had been to Desert Storm in the 90s. He had done his active time during then and then went in reserves, and we got to talking, and we were sitting in the basement playing darts and drinking, and I had made a comment, and Mark just said, hey, dude, he goes, I'll take off work tomorrow. I'll be here at 7 o'clock, and we'll go stand in front of the recruiter. I called his bluff, and sure shit, there he was, 7 o'clock, kicking me in my bed, saying, get up, go get a shower, let's go. Recruiter showed up at 8 o'clock, and we were standing there.
All right, so recruiter shows up. What happens next?
Well, you got to be honest, and you got to put it all out there. I had a ton of unpaid tickets for racing. I had a warrant from IRS for some unpaid racing tickets. Some bad checks. So again, stupidity. So first thing was, I walked in a Navy recruiter, and he looked at me and said, "You can just walk away." So I said, "All right." I said, "That's cool. I don't want to be on a boat anyways." So walked to the air.
This is a joke for the Navy people, but that's probably the best thing that ever happened in your life. He told you couldn't join the Navy.
I walked out of the Navy office, and the Air Force dude just straight shut his door. Just straight closed it right in my face. Shook his head. And I was like, all right, cool, So walked down to the old Jarheads. Walked in there, and the guy's looking at my record, and he makes a couple phone calls, and he's like, holy shit. He goes, I don't know. So I was like, well, I said, I ain't playing this game. So we were walking out, and I looked at Marcus, and I said, it don't even pay to walk in there. And Will Ida was the senior recruiter at the time up here, and he walks out and goes, come here, Junior. He goes, let's talk. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you know what, a judge? I said, well, not on the right way. He goes, walk in my office, sit down. So he looked at Marcus, and Marcus said, I'll tell you what. He goes, I don't care which one of your guys signs him up. He goes, but you ain't gonna lie to him. You're gonna tell him the truth, and we're gonna get him out of here. So Will and I went through all my records. I dumped it all on the line. He literally drove me up to the high school that I went to. We talked to the principal, and we talked with the guidance counselor. 2 weeks later, we went to the school board and asked what I had to do to get my diploma because I was a half credit short. Ended up writing a 3-4 page essay on all the jobs I had and how this was going to do to change my life around and what my goals were in 6 years. So got my mom to help me fix up all my horrible grammar because my English sucks, and turned in my essay.
By the way, his mom helped him. Even after he did what he did, she was a mother and put all that stuff to the side and did what was best for her son. Now, that right there just says a lot about the type of woman your mother is. And that's very impressive. The second thing I want to let the audience know, these are for all the young people out there listening that want to join the Army or the military. Always be honest with the recruiter. These guys have a lot of pull. They have a lot of connections. They know a lot of people. They will help you get into the military if that's what you desire to do. But be honest. We have a man right here telling his story, the things that he's done, being honest about it. Told the recruiter, they made it happen. All right, Matt, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, brother. So after I got my diploma on January 3rd of 2003, when I should have graduated in 2000, so went back, told Will I got my diploma, so we went and picked it up. And next thing you know, we were sitting in the judge's office. And like I said, my parents had, for my Christmas gift was, they gave me $200 to go get a rusty old truck and get my license back. And then they gave me a small loan to pay off my tickets as long as I was going to stay on this deal and join the service. So we went and talked to the judge. I did have a court date coming up for some bad checks that were now paid off. And judge sat down with the DA, and DA said, you're going to have 3 months of, they call it Huber up here, it's work release program. Mm-hmm. So I had to sleep in the county jail at night, and then they would release me at 6:30 in the morning, and I had to be back by 4 in the afternoon. So my dad gave me a job with him in his company, and I went back to work, and Will started working my stuff. Will and old Staff Sergeant Jeremy Kuznow. And they got me in. I did my ASVAB test in an hour in handcuffs because the county cops wouldn't take them off.
Damn, man.
So when I went and did my physical and stuff, the judge is like, okay. He goes, you got 6 months to be gone. I want you to get your shit straight. He goes, you will do a minimum of 6 years. I don't care what you're signing up for. He goes, you will do 6 years. And I shook his hand and said, yes, sir.
The military does change people's lives for the good, sometimes the bad. You got to take the good and bad, right? But the Army, the military always gives people an opportunity to change your life. And that is a good thing. That is a good thing. So you take your ASVAB, Cory. When did you realize that you were going to be a crew chief?
That wasn't until I got to Korea. My goal when I signed up, Jason, was I was going to do my 6 years, get the hell out, and come home. I wanted a job that I could turn wrenches and never have to leave a wire if I had to deploy. I just wanted to, I wasn't worried about shooting. I can shoot. I just never wanted to have to point a gun at somebody. I never wanted to have to go outside the wire. I never wanted to do any of that shit.
So you joined the Army. What was your original MOS?
So actually, I started out as a 67 Tango before they changed it to combat arms and made it 15 Tango. So I was one of the last original 67 Tangos. And
if you can, just explain that for the audience for civilian terms, what that is.
Black Hawk mechanic.
Okay.
Being a crew chief was just a bonus.
You take care of everything at home. You ship off to the Army. Where'd you do basic at?
Fort Benning, Georgia. And man, did they hate all of us because none of us were infantry.
I love it. I love it.
And that's where I met Staff Sergeant Antonio Gary. Still a dude I talk to this day.
Yeah. So you go to Benning once again, guys. That's the home of the infantry. It's a tough place to do basic, especially if you're not in a infantry type MOS. They will. I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. That was the field, the home of the artillery. I wasn't an artillery person, so I understand when you say you get treated differently. How was basic training? Was it easy, hard?
I think the worst part about it is our senior drill stayed the whole time, but we had new drill sergeants every 2 weeks because we had all the weekend warriors coming in. So you get a hard ass for the first 7 days, and then they're cool with you for the last 7 days because they're leaving. But and I don't want to sound like a dick because I'm not skinny and I'm not fast, and I was never a fast runner. But man, when you had guys screaming at you to be running faster, and they looked like they were dying harder than I was, and let me tell you, I was fat in basic. Dude, I didn't have BDUs the first week.
Really?
I had to go into basic training in PTs because they didn't have anything to fit my fat ass. I didn't get to make my trays. I didn't get to pick my meals. I got whatever drill sergeants gave me.
They had to get you in shape quick.
I went from running a 24-minute 2-mile to a 14.5-minute 2-mile when I left basic.
And how long was basic for you?
What, 9 weeks?
9 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Those drill sergeants, basic training will change your life and the person you are in 9 weeks. If you don't believe it, you got two individuals right here to attest to it. The stuff they do does work. Just trust the process.
But let me tell you this, I gambled a lot of stuff on my guys. Like our platoon, we gambled with our drill sergeant for, guide-ons and stuff. So like when we took the marksman guide on, he brought us pizzas. I got a salad. But, we carried a old school big screen TV from the bottom floor up to the top open bay so we could watch a movie with our pizza and my salad.
Mm-hmm.
With no dressing. That was my treat. I got vegetables on it. We gambled our phone time. We gambled our mail. I mean, we gambled everything with our drill sergeant. We made bets to be the best. The only guide on we didn't take was DNC. Everything else we took.
Nice. You wrap up. Army changed your life 9 weeks, get you into shape, get you ready. Where'd you do AIT?
Fort Eustis, Virginia is where I went to AIT. And when I got off that bus, I'll tell you what, drill sergeant Gary was so nice to call ahead because I was the first one that yanked off the bus and dumped out my bags to make sure I didn't have any chips hiding, any candy. Oh, yeah, they were making sure I was staying off the fatty program.
Would you say that your reputation was preceding you at that time?
No. I had made a promise to drill sergeant Gary that I wasn't going to fail. We had a couple rough spurts that'll always stay between him and I in basic. That's a story for a different day offline. But
yeah,
we had some cultural head clashing, and but like I said, to this day we still talk here and there. And dude was a huge inspiration. And when I signed up, like I said, I signed up to get the hell out of here and get my shit straight for 6 years. And when I got done in that first 9 weeks, man, I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to.
Yeah.
I really wanted the pride of putting that uniform on. I wanted to look my best in a uniform.
That's impressive, man. That's crazy that they did that turnaround for you to make you, really want to aspire to be a great soldier and do great things. Where's your first duty station?
So I was supposed to go to airborne school. My orders got denied because we had a little snot-nosed prick that his daddy was a colonel in the Army, so he got my spot, which pissed me off because I was in the top 10 for PT. I was in the top 10 for grades. I mean, I was busting my ass to go to airborne school because that's all I wanted. I wanted to go to airborne school. I wanted to be a dummy and jump out of planes, which I don't know why, because I hate heights, and why would you want to walk out of a perfectly good floor? So I went to Camp Page, Korea.
How was that growing up in a small town of, you said, 1,800 to 2,000 people. And how old were you at the time?
21. I turned 21 in basic training.
21 years old. You're heading off to Korea, South Korea. How was that?
Uh, you know what? I hated it. I really didn't want to go there. All I wanted was Alaska. That was my goal. After AIT, I was so diehard for airborne school in Alaska. And how was I going to get it? So I got up there, and we had these awesome yellow bumblebee stripes painted on our helicopter. So, at that time, I was super, super inquisitive and just wanted to learn. And I found out that we could fly up in the DMZ, which then, of course, I had to learn what that was, the demilitarized zone, where we could fly into North Korean corridors. So, my first 3 months there, I was asking 900 questions. I was in the books. I was in the product control, quality control offices. I mean, I was asking NCOs. I was asking everybody that was there longer than me how to do things, what to do. I was volunteering for everything, which, everybody tells you don't volunteer for a damn thing. I was going in Saturday mornings with test pilots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how to service, whatever it was they needed done Saturday mornings to go do a quick 1 hour test flight and be done so that bird was good to go for the week. We had a forward spot where we pulled medevac coverage out of Camp Casey. So I ended up going up there as the RTO and answering phones and relaying messages, and didn't really have a desire to want to fly yet. I was just as much as I could learn as fast as I could learn, Jason. That was my goal.
When did that desire to fly, when did that come about?
So I was there 6 months, and I found out I was going to Fort Hood. And I said, oh, hell no, we ain't having that shit. I am not going to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So one of our female pilots had left and taken over the branch manager spot for all the E4 and below tangos. So I was like, oh, so I called Miss Rose. And I said, what do I got to do to go to Alaska? And she said, you need to extend for 1 more year and you can go. She goes, I'll make sure your orders send you to Alaska. I said, awesome. Got the paperwork from First Sergeant. I filled it out. First Sergeant's like, hey, you get $5,500 too. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I got promoted to E3. I was like, woo, baller, right? Big money. Oh, yeah. So we're sitting there having a grand old time, extended my time.
Yeah, life's good.
And it was a Thursday night. We were getting ready after formation, and I'm walking out, and guy walked up and goes, hey, you want to go on a joyride? And sure, I'll go out for a joyride flight. And I'll tell you what, I was sitting in the left seat, the left crew seat, and they started yanking and banking, and man, did we have a blast. Doing 30 degrees up and nose over and yanking and banking, and we went down to the 38th, over to the 38th parallel and hovered by the sign and took pictures. And I rode down on a JP, on the jungle penetrator is what the JP stands for, on the hoist, and got lowered and raised up on that and got off the helicopter, and we were walking in, and the platoon sergeant for flight company walked up and goes, hey, he goes, we've been watching you since you got here. You want to come to flight? And I looked up, and two of the NCOs, the sergeants, E6s from maintenance, looked at me, and they're shaking their head. And I was really good friends with them. And they're like, don't go, dude. Don't do it. And I'm like, nah, I'll stay. I'm going to stay in maintenance. It lasted about 2 weeks, and First Sergeant walked by and said, hey, he goes, Alphabet. I said, yeah, First Sergeant, because he didn't like saying my last name. He goes, you're going to flight on Monday. And I looked up, and he goes, and you don't have a choice. He goes, the way you work, I'm tired of listening to it. You're going to flight. And I went to flight company after that.
And this is proof that no matter what you're doing, when you're doing the right thing, volunteering, regardless of what people say, and you're excelling at the things you do, people are always watching. And for them to pull you in, that says a lot about who you are and your work ethic, and they liked you and they pulled you into the flight company. So how'd you feel going to the flight company?
I had ups and downs about it, because at that time, like, we were always pissed off because them guys were going home at 2, 3 in the afternoon. You'd see them coming in at 8 o'clock, noon, you know, and we're always picking up all their bullshit. And then it's when a bunch of the maintenance changed. We went from doing regular dailies to the PMDs. And
Mm-hmm.
so then they were trying to dump all that stuff out. And then that's when one of my biggest inspirations in the military had come to the unit, Kelvin Lambert. And he changed everything, man. Flight was no longer relying on anybody but ourselves. We only went to maintenance for big stuff, when you had a long 40 hour, or when you had to pull that 120, or you had to pull a CCI for a corrosion control inspection. That's when you took stuff to maintenance, or it was something big that broke. But I mean, you broke something small, you fixed your own shit. You didn't dump off an aircraft wash. You washed your own helicopter, especially when we got our names on the side. You shined your own shinies. You cleaned your own helicopter. You jumped on the pilots if they left trash in it. That was no longer anybody else's issue. And I mean, what Calvin taught us. I mean, that's what you saw out of me, Jason, as an E4 up until I pinned 6 with you. And that's the way I made our crew chiefs run.
So, just for the audience, you did stay in Korea for 2 years, right?
No,
You didn't get the extension?
I did get the extension, but what happened was I actually ended up only doing 18 months in Korea. When that tsunami smashed Thailand, we packed up loaded containers and all our stuff, took our birds down to the port in South Korea to go to Thailand to help with it. And we couldn't get out of port due to weather. So after 3-4 days of sitting in port, we flew back up to Camp Page, and we're told not to unload any containers and to start packing our stuff as we were leaving within 30 days to go to Fort Campbell.
And is that when they brought the whole unit over to Fort Campbell?
Yep, we were told that they were shutting down Camp Page. All the Apaches were going to Camp Eagle, and that we were all going to Fort Campbell, except a handful of people that were staying there that were going to different spots. But
So my big question to you is, how did you feel about that? Did you contact Branch because they promised you that you were going to Alaska? So what happened with that?
I did call Branch, and like Miss Rose said, there was nothing I could do. My orders were already cut and changed. We were technically going to Fort McPherson, but we were attached orders to 6th Battalion, 101st.
And just so you guys know, once you get pulled into Fort Campbell, you are pretty much nothing's changing that. Certain things will change it, but it is a priority when you get your orders to go there in Korea for you. Most memorable moment, and what's the biggest lesson you learned there?
The most memorable moment would be right after I made my RL1 status as a crew chief. We were up at Camp Casey doing a training flight while pulling med coverage up there. And I remember getting into it with the pilot about getting too close to the trees, and we started cutting trees with the rotor blades and had to do a precautionary landing. And I was going to quit flying right then and there.
What changed your mind?
Snot-nosed young CW2 named James Van Meter. And Matt Muncie. He was our safety officer. Matt Muncie was another big influence in my career, him and Wayne Olin. But James was a huge influence in my career. Not only is he a brother from another mother, and his daughters are not like my own daughters. They are like my own daughters to me, let alone his family. But that if it wasn't for Matt and James, I was done. I was walking away from flying. I was going back to maintenance and just do my thing.
Yeah. Damn. Shout out to those guys. What was the most important thing you learned at Korea in 18 months?
I never pushed the blame on anybody for that accident but myself. My biggest thing in Korea was instead of hating it so bad, I started learning about their culture, learning about, we started hiking up in the mountains, looking where they had old battlegrounds, where they had old dug in trenches yet and dug in fighting spots. And it was neat, you start looking into their culture. It was neat to learn things. It was neat to talk to the locals, to sit down and learn some of their language and how they did things or why they did things the way they do it. Why do you build something different than how we build it? What's the difference? What am I seeing? What am I not seeing that they're seeing? So, how's that going to relate different in my life? I did the same thing deployed too.
And I want to say some that is very important that you said that, because you started off not wanting to go there. You had a negative impression when you first got there about the country. And then by the time you left, it was a complete 180 where you enjoyed the culture. You got to learn about the culture. You learned about the people, their history, and you're actually appreciative to be there. So that's very impressive that you did that. A lot of people would stay closed minded, never go anywhere, and have a negative opinion about stuff. But you opened up your mind and you were willing to learn. So you get to Fort Campbell. How was that like? Showing up there?
We had the longest St. Patty's Day of our life on that airplane flying over,
Mm-hmm.
and they let us drink, which was a big mistake. And they ran out of room in the one back area, so they put half the crew chiefs up by all the pilots. So, yeah, buddy.
You show up to Fort Campbell. What did you guys do when you get there?
To tell you the truth, I didn't want to be there.
You just wanted to go to Alaska.
No. So we got there at like 3 in the morning, got our in brief and everything, sign your book, sign your paperwork. Got put in these raggedy ass barracks that were actually condemned. Ceilings leaked, roof leaked. I mean, half the toilets worked. So we got in there like 5 in the morning and told to get some sleep. And next thing you know, at 8 o'clock, we got people running up and down, and we're getting pulled out in the hallway at 8 in the morning to meet the 6th Battalion Sergeant Major. And we're getting told, don't ask for a damn thing, and that we weren't wanted there.
Damn.
So that already put a bad taste in my mouth. And at that time is when I was really starting to become vocal and not so quiet, and pushing back with toxic leadership and, well, shit, the person who you met, really. But at that time, I wasn't picking and choosing my fights. I was picking all of them. I didn't care rank, structure.
Sure, was your rank at that time?
I got pinned E4 the day after we got there. So I was at E3 walking off the plane, pinned in E4 2 days later.
You're going against the grain. All right. When did they let you know what unit you were going to?
We knew right away that we were getting attached to 6th Battalion. It was already on our orders that we were assigned to Fort McPherson, but attached to 6th Battalion at Fort Campbell.
Okay. At what point in this whole transition did you guys become officially a part of Fort Campbell?
When we got back from Iraq, we got asked. I had orders to go to 159th, and man, did I hear some horror stories about them. So there was me and 5 guys. I mean, we all started in Korea together. We went to Iraq together, and we really, with working with Kelvin Lambert and Ed DeSada and Jake Purvis, the 5 of us that were E4s and now a couple E5s, we were definitely like, it was straight family. As much as we would hate each other, we loved each other. And, you get that little 5-man battle buddy, your little old school E4 mafia group. And, bro, all 5 of us had orders to split and go there. And, we looked at First Sergeant, and First Sergeant's like, well, he's like, I'm leaving. He goes, so incoming First Sergeant, he's like, you'll have to talk with him. And our commander was there. So we went and talked with Major Bonnickson. And he goes, here's the deal. He goes, we're reflagging once the new First Sergeant gets here. He goes, so you can take this reflag as your PCS move, or you can go to 159th.
Let's talk about Iraq for a quick second. So you went to Iraq with, who'd you go to Iraq with?
542nd Med Company is what we were called.
Okay, so you were doing medevac missions there?
Yeah, we did medevac. We were still under 18th MedCom. 6th Battalion still wasn't a GSAB. It was I think that was still just a straight aviation unit yet, or battalion.
Were you on flight orders with that when you were in Iraq?
Yep, I was on flight orders then. I went into Iraq with 211 flight hours.
Where were you guys in Iraq?
We had 3 crew. We had 3. Well, we were all over, but we had 3 crew chiefs that only had combat time. And that was That was Kurt Adesada, who was our FI, and one of our sergeants, Jake Purvis, who was a FI, and one of our sergeants, and then Kelvin Lambert, who was our senior tango, who was pinning six, getting looked at for seven now, but also trying to go to walk school. So those are the only three guys that had combat time.
What year was this?
2005,
2005. What month did you get to Iraq?
November,
November 2005.
November 13th, 2005.
Nice. Where'd you guys originally get stationed at in Iraq?
So we went to Spiker, and then from Spiker we pushed out. We had a crew out in Kirkuk. We had crews in Mosul, Key West, and Talafar.
Okay. What was the op tempo like?
Kirkuk had a pretty decent go. Mosul, they were up and down. Talafar was quite a few Mascals and a lot of roadsides. I'm not sure. I didn't spend any time in Mosul, and I didn't spend any time out at Kirkuk. QS, we were only there for 2 months before they shut that down. Out of Spiker, I mean, you had slow days, but a lot of days it was anywhere from patient transfers to roadsides to, I mean, we were running every which direction. But I mean, a
Okay.
lot of our pilots didn't have combat patches. A lot of our medics, we only had a handful of medics that had combat time. Like I said, no crew chief, no junior crew chief had combat time.
Yeah. It was still pretty early. It was still pretty early in GWAT at that time too. You figured everything kicked off 03 to only 05. We're about 2 years into the game by then.
I mean, Jason, our highest crew chief flight time for a junior crew chief was 270 hours.
Man.
I mean, hell, we got Josh Paul on our team with no flight time and progressed him, and I mean that dude was beyond stellar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
How many deployments you've done?
4.
4. So this is 1 out of 4. Out of your 4, what would you rate this one out of just kinetic activity and being busy?
I mean, on a 1 to 10 scale, 7.
How long were you in Iraq for?
Company was there 9 months. I was there 10 and a half because I came back straight air.
Okay. What was your most memorable moment about that deployment, and what was your biggest takeaway?
My most memorable is going to be my first real combat mission ever, and that was landing in a huge circle of tanks on Route 1. 2 Humvees burning that hit a chain of IEDs, and you'll never forget hearing them guys inside the Humvee that we couldn't get out in time. You know, flying with the jaws of life is stupid, but we needed it.
Yeah.
You know, taking civilian firefighters with us was dumb because I think it's unsafe, but yet we needed the hands, we needed the knowledge, we needed them guys, and thank God we had them.
Were the Humvees up armored at that point?
Yeah.
Because I know when I got to Iraq, we didn't have up armored Humvees, so they were up armored at that time?
Some were, some weren't, depending who you were chasing behind, you know.
What was your biggest takeaway from that first deployment? You know, you're 21 at this time, 22?
23 now.
23. After dealing with the trauma, those type of things, what was your biggest takeaway? Just being in the Army doesn't have to be associated with the mission itself, but what was your biggest takeaway?
Toxicity.
Is that toxicity with the leadership, your peers, the mission?
It was leadership and some of the peers. I mean, just watching the bullshit was killing me. Seeing the favoritism and getting run down hard because, I mean, birds had to be fixed. I didn't have time to wait on people. I knew we had limitations, but when you got a no time to waste in your limited parts, I mean, you got to make a bird work.
Yeah.
That, you know, and like Calvin used to tell us, you're going to learn what's truly a broke bird and what's truly you put in the back of your mind and how far do you push it.
Yeah.
And I know that ain't the right answer or to say it out loud, but you truly have to do what you have to do. And, with guys like Calvin and Kurt and our crew of, the five guys that got split up between the sites and everything. I mean, dude, you really learn to do what you got to do to make it work. And you learn how to build that family, you learn what pilots are going to lay it out there and what pilots are just out there for fucking glory.
Yeah.
And what pilots don't have the nerve, and I hate to put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the pilots that they'll do what they have to do to make it work, and I'm okay with that. Those are the guys I want to be with, not the fucking glory hogs. I don't want the guy that's looking for the worst dust landing in a one wheel pickup because, unfortunately, I didn't get the blood runs, man. I didn't get the patient transfers. Iraq started it, is what I like to call the Constantine effect. I got all the shit, and it came at me fast and hard.
When you got back from Iraq, all right, because we're going to talk about everything else. When you get back from Iraq, what was the next journey in your process? So you guys reflagged for the medevac for Charlie Company 6101?
Yeah, we reflagged.
So what year did you get back?
2006.
2006. When you get back, did you feel you're a different person at that time?
I felt lost because, like I said, there was people I didn't trust that I did trust, and there was people that were stealing stories that weren't theirs. And then you got
That's a serious issue out there.
it is, and nowadays it's go ahead and steal what you want to steal because, I wrote in that paperwork, and that was the hardest question for me to answer for you because I've been denied so much and watched shit taken away from me. But honestly, I know the truth. I got 10 toes. I got 10 fingers. I got my limbs. I can hug my kids. I can curl up next to my beautiful wife. I know the truth, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But I was lost because I got denied. I got denied going to the E5 board, and then I got to go, and then I lost my P status or my promotable status. But yet, I've seen some of the neatest things done there. I've seen guys do amazing things in 183 person mass cals. I've seen, I've seen some of the worst, nastiest looking country, but yet some of the most beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really made me want to start reading up on the difference between, who's Allah, what's our God, what's their God, what's this, what's that.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
That was the only time you've been to Iraq, right?
Yep.
All right. So you get back home 2006. That's when I got to Fort Campbell 2006. I went to the Warlords.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
It's a W1.
No, I was a W2 then. Cause I was in Egypt first. Yeah, I went to Egypt first.
Okay.
So you guys get to Iraq. What happens the next? What does it look like for Cory? Because we get deployed in 2000, the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. That 2-year time frame. What are you doing, and what are you doing to get ready for our next deployment?
Really, I should do my own thing. Trying to get back to the E5 board. Struggling with some incoming NCOs, but yet we had some pretty baller NCOs that came from Alpha Company, and we gave up some guys to go to Alpha Company, which sucked. I was actually trying to get over to 5th Bat, but I kept getting denied.
You just didn't want to do the medevac mission anymore?
I just didn't want to be around certain people. Certain people I didn't want to be around. But yet there's guys I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave Mr. Van Meter. I didn't want to leave, guys like Brandon Silk and Sean Ray and Aaron Tootin. These were guys that we ran together from Korea on up. I mean, Sean and I were 2 weeks apart in AIT. My best friend and my brother to this day, Brandon Baskin, was getting out, and I was pissed. I mean, I was happy he was getting out and going home and starting his life with his wife, and I was super excited for him, but I was super pissed because we ran everywhere together. Josh went to Alpha Company, and Josh Powell was we had a place together. We were roommates in Iraq together. Josh again was
Yeah.
another brother to me that I knew his mom, I knew his dad, I knew his stepdad, I knew his brother. I knew everybody that he ran with, and he went to Alpha Company, and for a while there, we
Yeah.
kind of took it out on each other, and then we were like, whatever, do we live together? It's cool. We're gonna do our thing. We're gonna be all right. You know, you guys got some phenomenal crew chiefs from us. You guys got Palmer. You got Powell. We got some of your NCOs. We had Fiddler and Bruce Adams, which became a huge inspiration in my life. I mean, became friends with him. I was in his wedding. You know, his wife was from Wisconsin, so
That's one of the things I love about the Army, the relationships we built with people, those long lasting relationships and friendships. So, fast forward to 2008, we all go to Afghanistan. What was your role when you got there? And just tell us a little bit about that.
so I was high time crew chief, but not the senior crew chief. I had more goggle time, more flight time than any other crew chief on our team. Was I probably the best mechanic?
Most combat experience as well?
Yeah, most combat experience. I mean, I had more than our senior crew chief.
Mm-hmm.
I had more flight time. I had more flight time than half our pilots.
Hmm. Just for the audience purposes, we were in RC East on Bagram. Were you? I know the medevac's different. Were you stationed on Bagram with us as well?
No, so right before we deployed, they had a big powwow circle, and I was up home in November for Thanksgiving, but I was out hunting when James Van Meter called me and said, "Hey," he goes, "You're no longer allowed at the head shed because nobody wants to deal with your shit." He goes, "But he's like, Major B and the first sergeant know your worth and your weight in gold." He goes, "So you're going to the forward sight." And well, I was pissed because there was a team that I didn't want to be on because I couldn't stand
Mm-hmm.
leadership. And he's like, "I pulled you. You're going to Salerno." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't care for my platoon sergeant, but good medic, great medic, smart dude. I knew him since Korea as an
Yeah.
E5. Guy was phenomenal as a medic, so I was all about flying with him because like I said, grade A medic. That was the mission. I knew once we
Mm-hmm.
left here, it didn't matter who I flew with. It's all about the mission.
So you get to Salerno. How was I flew quite a bit out to Salerno. How was the medevac mission out there? Was it highly kinetic? What was it like?
It was a little tough. I mean, uh, you know, we had we had shitty runways because only half of it was pre-built and concrete. But living right tight to the flight line, when they launched HIMAR rockets, yeah, you weren't sleeping because we were still in the tents. But I mean, Sal, you had some busy days and you had quite a few quiet days.
Yeah.
But we had a forward site off of Salerno. We actually went to OE, Wergany, and that's where the
Mm-hmm.
173rd engineers were in that shit turd Bergdahl. But that was OE was a run. Now, when you went there for a week, yeah, it was supposed to be your break of happiness, but man, you ran 5 out of 7 days up there. I mean, there was
Hmm.
many times we went to OE and we were unloading our stuff, doing crew swaps, and you threw your shit up against the Heskel barrier and took off because you got a call. You had to go
Yeah.
unpack your bags later.
Did you spend the whole 12 months in Salerno and OE, just rotating back and forth?
Yeah, I went back to Bagram only to go home, and I flew a week and a half with them just because they needed some help before I left.
Yeah.
I was trying to get home for my sister's wedding, and I got screwed out of that whole deal. I came home 2 days after her wedding, so I was pretty rank about it. So
Yeah.
first sergeant sat me down, and we had an amazing first sergeant at that time. We had Kevin Zeitz, and he had come from 160th, and he's a medic, and he used to always bust my balls. But like he said, what I could do and work wise for my weight in gold always made up for when my mouth ran off. And he always liked my attitude and my no quit, no drive, all drive head first,
Yeah.
or the the famous ask for forgiveness later and just get it done.
What was your most memorable moment in that '08 deployment? Because you and I, we didn't even meet in '08, to be honest.
I knew who you were.
Did we? I don't think we met in '08. I did a lot of Med Chase, but I did it in Bagram.
I knew who you were from being at Campbell. I mean, but I think my most memorable there would have been I pulled the first hoist mission in Charlie Company there ever, first combat mission. But it would be it'd be with Bob Miner. God rest Bob. I mean, he passed away, but there was a medic there that I don't think anybody will ever stand up to. Jason, we ran into a small compound outside of Salerno that went through
Hmm.
30 some hours of fighting.
Yeah.
They were attacked. We went in to get the wounded U.S. soldiers. We had to get around a car. I left the bird, which was uncommon, but I also would never leave a medic on the ground. And Scott Shepard and Sean Jones were my pilots. Captain Jones and W at that time would have been W2, W3 Scott Shepard. And yeah, I made him launch without me. And I ran into that building with Bob coming out to get more litters. I had insurgents stand up behind a concrete wall and never seen them. And I had some young kid shoot them off the top of a building. And then after we left that site, the car blew up. I was 4 months no smoking until that day.
I'm telling you, I've been on missions that I've never smoked before, but damn, I want to smoke and drink a whole bottle of Jack. But yeah, I never even heard that story, but damn, that's pretty intense, man. What's the biggest lesson you learned in '08?
Again, watch who you trust.
What do you think created that that disconnect and those trust issues?
I mean, I wish I had an answer to that. I really do. But, you watch guys that get promoted from E5 to 7
Mm-hmm.
and they turn out to be some of the best people. And then some of them change for the worst and it goes to their head and their shit swells and they think they're unstoppable. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I had a platoon sergeant drag me through the mud. I had a sergeant major from 5th Bat that wouldn't let me go to the E5 board because I got a permanent profile over there because I blew my knee out, dragging people. I ran with a guy in a shoulder carry and
Damn.
had one dude hooked to my monkey tail off the back of my vest, and I ran across the field with him and threw him on a med bird. Come find out it's a damn minefield.
Mm-hmm.
And I blew my knee up. I blew my knee up before
Damn.
we deployed, but I blew it up again. But because I had a colonel that did
Yeah.
the x-rays at OE and did a full MRI at OE and then sent it all across the board. I mean, he sent it to everybody in all RC South, period, and RC East. He sent it out and gave me a permanent profile right then and there. And told me I shouldn't even be flying ever again.
Thank God he didn't ground you for that.
No, the Sergeant Major tried to. It took a phone call to Chuck Rambo in Bagram to keep my flight status.
We come back, so you're still dealing with the trust issues, right? Had a pretty rough deployment again. You come back, and I'm trying to think what we did then. We get back. Well, I left. I went down to Rucker. I was a SEER instructor for 2.5 years. What did you do when we got back from Afghanistan in '08?
Got screwed at Campbell. Tried to take vacation or take leave in July for my birthday and had to go to JRTC, had to go out to NTC. I mean, it is what it is, we swapped platoon leaders in Salerno, and yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
get it. Some people are yes men, and some people are learning who they are when they become platoon leaders. But it is what it is, and yeah, being in the Army, you're on a contract. If they say no, they say no. Yeah, I mean, I get
Yeah.
it, but I was a living drunk at that point.
Damn. And you were just self medicating for all the trauma you've seen, or you just tired of the
Yeah,
bullshit in the army? It
yeah.
was the first one?
I had back pains. I had nightmares and terrors. My shoulders were killing me. My knees were definitely off. Both my knees were done in grinding. But all the docs would ever tell me is I had to lose weight, and at that time I was 200 pounds and solid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't uber fat, but I wasn't the perfect skinny soldier. But yeah, I was living on Toradol and Percocets, Vicodins, whatever I could get for free through the medics or through aid stations.
At what point did you realize, like, if I don't start bending a little bit, these guys are gonna make my life pretty rough in the army?
Mm, later down the road.
All right. So we fast forward. You're having some issues, consistent issues with the leadership. And this is what I'll say about my experience in Army aviation leadership. I bumped a lot of heads with a lot of people. You're dealing with a lot of strong personalities in aviation. Everybody wants to be right, and even including myself. I'd say that, but I always try to be a down to earth pilot where I always got to know my crew. I always did things. I wanted to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. I handled business the way I wanted to handle. I treated people the way I wanted to be treated. That's the biggest thing, and that's the main reason why I had to take a break and go down to Rucker and be in SEER instructor. I just needed a break from the aviation aspect, the politicking and the stuff that you're talking about. So it was good.
The hardest part is all the incoming LTs, because you get the ones that come from a regular college and they seem to be level headed and want to listen
Mm-hmm.
and want to learn. And then you get the ones that come from like and shit don't stink, trust fund babies. They played war games and they know every answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was an LT that we had that we lost before Afghanistan on the first trip.
Mm-hmm.
We lost him to suicide and accidental discharge. Yeah, enlisted ain't supposed to become friends with officers and all that other bullshit, but he was probably one of my good friends. Talked with him all the time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
talked about his horrible relationship breakup with his girlfriend and what he was going through. But we could relate on dumb shit growing up, disappointing families, the shit we did, how we burnt bridges, how we rebuilt bridges. Like we connected that way. And then I was there tonight. I had left 2 hours before it happened, but that night, so I carried that all through the whole first trip in Afghanistan too. Was what would have happened if I would have stayed at his house, or if I would have took his gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I put a lot of that weight on myself for a long time too.
Yeah. And when that incident happened, how close was it to you getting deployed again in 2010?
Well, that incident happened. Holy shit, that was right before 2010, wasn't it? Because we were back from 4 months before we deployed.
So when did you guys deploy in 2010?
No, that wasn't 2010, Jason. That was 2008 when he committed suicide on accident. That would have been our first trip to Afghanistan because he was supposed to be there as my PL. 2010, I walked in with a lot on my shoulders because I was about to become a dad, and I was so scared shitless to get my shit straight,
Damn.
prove who I really was, and get out of people's shadows. And I really wanted to make my own footprint. My drinking wasn't as bad, but my pill addiction was worse.
Yeah. So you're in the army. You have a pill addiction, drinking. Did your leadership know, or did anybody know, or that's just something you just kept to yourself and kept quiet about?
Well, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I went to ASAP because we went and took birds down to Texas to drop them off, and high school friend of mine was down there at Fort Hood because he was stationed there, and we went out drinking, and old Captain Robichaud thought I had a drinking issue, so he called me in, and to make the commander happy, I said I'll go to ASAP, but I don't have a drinking issue. So I mean, I got 2 certificates of graduation from ASAP. Yeah, 2 of them.
I was gonna say, not one but two. But when did that happen? Before 2010 deployment?
Yeah, right before it.
Okay. And when did you get to? I know you guys went down to RC South. I was talking to Frank episode before yours. When did you get to Afghanistan? And you were in RC South, correct?
Yeah, so we all flew into Kandahar there. When the hell did I deploy in 2010? I don't remember when we left in 2010. I just remember leaving in 2010 January. That was the February March one that we left.
So you're there. You got there in February and you left March the next year.
Yeah, because I did 10 and a half in Iraq, 13 on the first deployment to Afghanistan, 13 on the second one, and then 10 on our last.
So what was different about RC South compared to RC East when you get there?
Dude, the poo pond. Everybody knows the poo pond, and then you got Timmy Hortons in the boardwalk.
Where were you in RC South?
I went out to Turncout, TK. We lived on the SF compound because the SF guys did not want us anywhere near our regular battalion because when they left, they wanted to make sure they knew where the 2 med birds were at all times. Like, they didn't leave the compound unless they knew we could launch to back them.
And did you spend the whole 13 months in that one spot, or did you rotate to other places?
Oh, no. Major Davis and First Sergeant Hartman made sure I stayed in TK. Actually, Eric Newman didn't want me anywhere else but TK. Eric was our maintenance test pilot, and he was the one running all the maintenance across the board for Charlie 6101. So at that time, I was still a specialist, but I mean, yeah, we had another guy there with some flight time, and we had another Tango there that had more flight time than me. But I mean, I ain't tooting my own horn, but let's just call it what it is. There was nobody there that was going to outwork me or knew more about them helicopters than me, and that's why Eric had me put where I was.
Just from a maintenance standpoint, he needed that experience and leadership there, correct?
He needed to know he had one guy that he could call at any time and would get the answers he needs when he needs.
Yeah. How was the op tempo compared to the 08 deployment down in the South?
That one picked up quite a bit, especially with the SF guys there. I mean, I got my ass in a ringer when we had the interviewers come and they threw me underneath the bus for saying what I said about the Dutch because, I mean, you don't go sit on Rocket Joe's launch pad and wait for him to show back up because you know he ain't going to show back up. But, I mean, IDF wasn't much, but, I mean, again, 3 more live hoist pickups, a lot more 1-2 wheel pickups on the mountainsides, a lot of 1 mile or less visibility flights. Even though we were told you don't have to go, you don't have to force it, we did it because I was the crew chief and the pilots knew I wouldn't let it go anywhere else. But I mean, I lost 2 brothers. I lost 2 of my best friends in a 90-day window. And my daughter was born on one of those windows where I lost my best friend. You know, I seen him 2 days prior.
Yeah, you got a lot of shit going on. Question I want to ask you: how did you because you can't drink in combat, right?
No, you can't get caught drinking in combat, Jason.
We'll leave that off the record.
Well, call it what
So,
it is.
no, I feel you. There's always a way to get everything. I will say that. What did you being you're deployed 3 times? This is your third deployment now, right? You're dealing with seeing a lot of trauma, like you said, you losing your friends, you got your baby being born. How did Cory deal with all this stuff? What did you do to decompress and try to keep your shit together? Because you are dealing with a lot. What did you do to decompress and try to at least stay level headed? Because we all had our own ways of doing it.
Uh, Actually, I went to the Soldier of the Month board and smoked it, and I went to the E5 board and smoked that. But I spent a lot of time in the gym. I spent a fair amount of time online talking with Laura, whether it was via email or via messenger somehow. Um, our group really bonded up there. Like we had, I had Scott Shepard as one of my pilots, and Greg Holloway was our senior tango, and Bob Miner was up there again as one of my medics, and we'd play cards. We'd sit around 2 picnic tables and bullshit. We linked up a bunch of Xboxes together, but I think I dropped 40 pounds that year, and I think I put on some size just in muscle because I went to the gym with some of the SF guys. I went to the ranges with the SF guys. I learned how to tear down an M4 and turn it into a fully automatic. I learned how to rebuild guns with them guys. I got to do some of the neatest shit and see some of the neatest stuff. I mean, they rebuilt the whole entire ZPU and made it active and then blew it up.
So I just want to, just for the audience, and it's something you said something very important. The things that help keep you grounded and kept your shit together. Exercising, which I highly recommend for everybody because exercising is what I used when I was in combat every time, and what I used after I got out of the army, and how I helped myself deal with my demons. Camaraderie is another one, and then you doing badass stuff, doing cool shit like going to the Soldier of the Month, uh, the promotion board, and crushing those things. Which those 3 things are very important to anybody. All right. What was the most memorable time in 2010 for you?
Well, as my daughter being born, adopting my oldest daughter, and marrying my wife, who is my best friend and my soulmate. I mean, in literally a 6-month span, my whole world changed. I mean, I flew home from deployment. My daughter was born in September, and I got married 2 weeks later. Came back on deployment, sent as much money as I sent my money to my wife.
Real quick, how long did you know Laura before you guys got married?
I met Laura so actually, we went to school together. I just didn't know who she was.
Okay.
She knew me for my stupidity.
I think everybody did, Cory.
um, she was already learning at that time that every story starts with, let me tell you about Mac, or let me tell you what Mac did, or fucking Mac
Yeah.
did this. But we had known each other for quite a while. I mean, we turned 14 years married this year, but we dated on and off. I mean, we've been together almost 20 years. So,
Yeah. And I want to let the audience know the power of true love. Like when you really find your person, all right, and they're down for you. I mean, they're down for you. They're there to help you through your good times and your bad times. I mean, this woman literally saved this man's life on several occasions, not even realizing it. She just wanted to be a good wife, a great wife. And that says a lot about who she is. Like I said, shout out to Laura again. But to have that is very, very important. And every soldier or person that spent time in combat, to know that you had that person to lean on in times of struggle it's very important. Very, very important. All right, so you get married. That's some good shit. What was your biggest takeaway from 2010 that was different from your other two deployments?
It's the first time we lost anybody that I knew. First time we lost people that were part of our company. I mean, the night that Brandon, the night that Brandon was gone, I was on duty. I was first up that night, and we got into an argument on our side where the medevac was staying over something stupid about tools because he came over and he was Brandon being Brandon, showing off in front of his guys and running his mouth. And yeah, he outranked me, but you can't just come over and tell me I'm going to give up tools that I brought on my own, that I built out of my set, that our company set up for us, and then I'm going to fork them over and give them up. And yeah, we may have went a little fisticuffs and a little boxing action there, and 6 hours later, all you hear across the radio is "Fallen Angel," and I had that biggest gut wrenching pain and knot that I'll ever have in my life. And then to find
Tell the audience what a fallen angel means.
it's an American aircraft that goes down, and you don't know who's alive and who's not alive yet. And it could have been anything, Jason. It could have been an Apache. It could have been a Chinook. It could have been a 58. I mean, but for some reason, I knew who it was.
Yeah. Anytime there isn't fallen angel incident it is a huge event. I mean, you want to see like our assets get shifted to one thing. Like we're bringing everything we have in our arsenal to make sure we go take care of what's going on at the time. So,
I mean, at 3:30 in the morning when that happened, by 3:35 we had 15 Aussie SAS and commandos standing in front of us asking, "Do we know which helicopter it was? Do we know who it was?" Because they had 15 guys, 20 some guys going out on two birds. And it was their guys also.
Yeah. And I just want everybody to realize the level of risk that we as aviators, special operation community guys, the level of risk that we put ourselves in. It's a part of our job. And I'm not saying we want a tap on the back or a smack on the ass, but the level of risk that we're willing to accept to get the mission done, because we're all mission focused, it's pretty large. It's significant. It's something, I don't think it's something I'll ever experience as a civilian, and I've only experienced it being in the Army. Go ahead, finish your biggest takeaway.
But I mean, my biggest takeaway was, exactly 90 days on the dot, Josh was gone, disappeared in another helicopter crash. But yet, I'll never forget what his mom said to me. For every angel God takes, he gives us one. And my youngest was born, 11 hours after.
Damn.
So,
Damn.
every day is a great day when you're 6 feet on the right side of the earth.
Say that again. I think a lot of people take life for granted, man, until you see the things that we saw and the close calls that we've had and the friends we've lost. And I mean, every day, I think everybody should wake up with a debt of gratitude every single day that you get to wake up and have another day to do these things. Because it's important, man. I have my stories about Josh because we were in Alpha Company together. And he's probably one of the most impressive crew chiefs I've ever seen when we did our mission out on Route 1 in 08. So I feel your pain, man. I'll never forget where I was when I found out it's Sierra School. But yeah, man, I feel you, brother. It's one of the toughest things we have to deal with is the loss of our brothers and sisters in arms. And it's something we all struggle with, even to this day. I even get choked up thinking about it, the chills, all those things. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, there's still missions that make me choke up and tear up, you know. But then you look at the highlights.
there's always good and bad, man. I will say that. Definitely will say that. Cory here, this is your third deployment, correct?
Yes.
Lost 2 friends, right? All the trauma he's dealt with, but he has these highlights of amazing moments, meeting his wife, adopting his daughter, having a child. Once again, I need to know because one, you are one of my good friends. And then I think the audience needs to know, just so you could help people out there that are struggling with this stuff, man. How in the hell did you keep it together? Like while you're in the army? Because I know there's a time where we all have to face this, because even I had to face it. And I've been getting a lot of help. The other guys that I talked to in the episodes before yours, same thing. So how did you keep it together in the army?
Honestly, I drove myself to just work. I slept very little.
Mm,
I'd wait for everybody else to disappear and go in their rooms, and I'd go out on the birds and flashlight maintenance, and wipe down shinies. I'd service dampers and go have the MTP come out in the morning and double check my safeties, which I knew were good, but I'd
mm-hmm.
I'd find something to do. Make sure there's enough cavicide sitting out in the gold box. We had to clean the birds because I didn't have a crew to
Yeah.
come help me wash my birds out. It was on us. You come in, you land, blades are turning, you're dumping cavicide and water out and going back, or you're pulling one bird off and having a second up cover you, and you're ripping the baps out, cleaning, putting everything back in when the floor's still wet. I mean,
Cory, why are we doing this? Just so the audience knows.
well, you got to clean the bird from all the blood and debris that's on the floor.
Correct. So I just want you guys to know, like we land, depending on what's going on, we only have enough time. There's some days we didn't even have enough time to at least clean the blood out of the aircraft. All right. And then we just had to go back out there. That saying that people use, rinse and repeat, literally was at times our life. Rinse and repeat. Just keep it pushing.
I mean, our team FI, Jason, I don't know how many times he threatened to ground me because I wouldn't take a full 24 off because I went and found something to do, or I was scrubbing through the logbooks, or I was emailing back and forth with Mr. Neerman, or getting information.
That is one way of coping that even I've dealt with. It's called keeping our mind so busy that we don't have to think. We don't have time to think about nothing else. Just stay busy. Stay busy. Stay busy. So when did you get back from Afghanistan, that deployment? In March?
I think I got back in March or April.
March or April?
Yeah,
What was it like when you got back that time?
it was crazy because I had a house to come home to. I had a wife. I had daughters. Like my family was more than willing to help. Like my mom and dad pitched in and help Laura move everything down and get set up. But like Laura flew down to Campbell and found a place to live. She had a house set up. She had a home for me to come home to.
And that is very important.
She was standing there. She brought my mom on to Fort Campbell. My mom flew down for that one, and she brought my mom on the base so my mom could see it and be there. And then, you know, like I said, we had a house. She took me home. I got to see my daughter, my youngest, and my
Yeah.
oldest. Well, my oldest was sleeping, so it was so cool because like I got up. Well, I never went to bed the night we got home, and like I got home and I held my baby girl, and I talked to my mom and I talked with Laura. And when Kellen got up in the morning and she came out, and I'll never forget her rubbing her eyes, and like she looked up and she's like, "Dad," and making big fluffy scrambled eggs for her and
Yeah.
toast, and seeing the excitement and having our first family breakfast together. Never had that before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, as a
Yeah.
kid growing up,
I'm glad you had that.
but now it's your family.
Yeah. It hits different, man. This happened 2011, right? You're back 2011.
Yep.
When did you get deployed again?
2012, left in July.
That's when I was a part of medevac then. 2011, July. I remember that.
Shit, you were in Colorado when I blew my shoulder up.
Yeah. Pulling somebody into the aircraft off of a hoist, right?
Yeah. We had well over 60 mile an hour gusts come off the mountainside out of nowhere. And I kept the medic out of the rotor blades. I mean, Johnny K was the pilot, him and Juan Guzman.
Now was that 2011? Was that your last deployment?
No, 2012, my last deployment.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2012. That 2012 deployment, the one I went with you guys on, that was your last deployment?
Yeah, for you and me and a couple others.
Yeah.
It broke us.
Damn. All right. So you get to we all get there together. You go to it was Shank, right? Fob Shank.
Yeah, so Shank in 2008 was nothing but a dust bowl and guys living in the ground.
I agree because I was out there a lot. Shank was tiny. Then when we came back in 12, I was like, holy shit, what did they do here? It's like they put a little city in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
So you went to Shank, I went to J Bad, and I pretty much know everything that was going on there, but the audience, what was your most memorable moment about 2012 deployment?
walking away from 23 to 40 some IDF a day, indirect fires.
Yeah, you guys are getting your shit like rocked every
Uh,
day.
keeping a 99 operational ready rate with 1 out of 3 medevac birds on an average, and taking two slick UH-60s from Charlie Company because I constantly had holes in my birds.
What is the biggest lesson you learned from that deployment?
Don't ever look at your captain and say, "What did the E5 promotable say to the captain?" Go fuck in front of everybody.
I know that shit didn't turn out good for you.
You know, you'll have to ask old Captain K one day about that, Jason.
Oh well, I'm gonna get him on here. I'm gonna ask him about that.
When he pulled me around to the back of the helicopter in his stern voice, and then looked at me and goes, "How am I supposed to yell at you when it's funny as fuck?" And he's like, "Don't ever do that again to me, Mac." And he's throwing a command hand as we're talking like we are now. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like trying to give me his angry face. And I'm trying to hold a straight face while biting my lip and to keep myself from laughing. So we had to walk around to the other side of the helicopter so we could laugh because we were both almost starting to
Yeah.
dry heave that we were holding it in so hard. And then to walk around and everybody's like, "Ooh, you got it." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got my ass chewed. Let's go get some stuff done." And then walking away, and then all of a sudden, like Juan Guzman, Mr. Guzman, he was my maintenance test pilot there, looks at me and goes, "Did he really even yell at you?" And I looked up and he goes, "That it's the only look I need to see because you didn't get yelled at." And he goes, "Only you can pull off something that stupid in front of 100 people and get away with it."
I would agree. That may not have been the best choice of words in front of everybody. We get back. I was only there for, I think, 9 months. How long were you there for?
I was there the whole time. I was the first one out the door and the last one out the door.
I know I got back in March. Like that first week of March.
Yeah, I got back at the end. But yes, my
Okay.
most memorable would have been pin in 6. I went from E5 to E6 in 8 months on the dot.
I remember that as well. So what happened when you came back from Afghanistan that year after that deployment?
I had a lot of peers that I thought were going to back me, and instead were trying to screw me over. or guys that were prior peers that were pissed that I went to the 6 board and pinned.
Why do you think they were mad at you? That's something important I need to know, and the audience needs to know. Why do you think those guys that were supposed to be your friends not happy for you for being promoted and moving up?
Well, when they tried to make me go to Bagram from Shank and take a break, I never left. I had an E5 that thought he was going to walk all over me at Shank and take my job, so I sent him back to Bagram with a letter of recommendation for UCMJ for backstabbing and, well, telling lies. Because you don't do that. One, you don't break the esprit de corps. Two, you just don't shit on the chain. You know, that chain of command is there. And, I mean, the whole purpose of the NCO Corps is there. And then you try to break it like that and be dirty? No. You ain't going to have that. And then to try to turn the crew chiefs against me, which was just a dumb idea.
Yeah, that is that's unacceptable behavior, especially in the military. There's a chain of command for a reason, and I get it. I really do. So we get back. You had that happen. When'd you get out the Army?
So I got out in July. I signed out in July of 2014, and I was temporarily retired, or what they call TDRL, as of August 14th, 2014. So we moved back home.
I do remember that.
And the whole reason the med board happened, and nobody knows why it happened, is because I was escorting a soldier around who was getting out for a DUI, and I was getting gas at the shopette when I asked a guy to turn his music down at one of the gas pumps, and he told me to take my stupid cracker ass somewhere else because he was an E7 and I was an E6. So I pulled him out of his window and said my piece with my hands. Our first sergeant from the company saw it, stopped it, sent me home, and then sent my platoon sergeant to take me to meet the doc and get an eval done, which is what started the med board and everything else.
And this is
2013 now.
Yeah, but what I want to tell the audience, this is just years. This is what happens when we soldiers, once again, we're not asking for pity parties and none of that. We're just telling you guys how it works. This is years of dealing with trauma, never getting worked on, never talking about it, just dealing with it. It's like a pressure cooker. That shit's gonna finally explode one day, and that's pretty much what happened. Am I right or wrong, Cory?
You're right for the majority of it. The second was I didn't need the racial slurs because I asked politely and correctly to please turn your radio down. Everybody knows the whole 30-foot policy or whatever it was at the time. And I'm sorry, but if your music is rattling the windows and I'm on one end of the pump and you're on the other side of the parking lot, you know damn well you're in the wrong. But whether you're...
Well, anytime people use racial slurs, they're completely wrong. So that's unacceptable behavior any day, no matter where you're from or what you're dealing with in life.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had it held against me my whole career that because I came from a small town, I don't understand and I don't know, which is a crock of shit. So, because that's not the way we were raised.
Ignorance isn't an excuse anymore. We live even back then, we lived in an age where we had social media, we had internet. Everybody knows, man. They choose not to know. That's just the fact of the matter. So you temporarily retire from the Army, you go home. What do you do next?
So I came home and I had a job lined up as what they called a field service coordinator. I was telling the mechanics with the field service trucks where they had to go or what they had to get done. And tell you the truth, I had guys that didn't give two shits what I knew or what I thought or how I ran it. And they would go around me to the higher ups at the company, and I had no support. So I worked there for a year and I was gone. started driving truck for a small company, hauling milk to schools and gas stations and stuff. And I did that for a year till I jumped into a bigger trucking company. And then I hauled lime for melting factories and brewer's grain from Miller Brewing Plant out to the farms, where once they were done soaking it and getting everything out of it, you feed it to the cows. And I ran
Hmm.
that for almost 4 years that way, and wasn't spending any time at home. I was driving crazy ass hours to be a local driver. No, kids were always wondering when I was tired or crabby or pissed off. And when I first got out, I started going to the VA, and I was on 13 different types of medication. I was taking 7 or 8 in the morning and the rest at night.
Damn. Which is pretty common.
I was forgetting days on end. I was yelling at guys to get shit done, or thinking I forgot to run a route, and they were done 2, 3 days prior. I damn near sitting there like a invalid, and drooling on myself some days. And
Mm-hmm.
I stopped taking all the meds, and I shouldn't have stopped the way I did, and I did.
Yeah.
The one thing we didn't talk about, Jason, was when I came home from that third deployment, my oldest daughter, when she asked me why I had to have my special drinks after work, that was when I cut back my drinking and started getting my shit wired right. She was one of the biggest reasons and saviors in my drinking.
Kids will save your life, man. And that's one thing that I try to press upon men, especially like the things that we're doing, our children are watching, man. And if we don't think that we're making an impact on them, we are sadly mistaken, especially the negative stuff. But once again, for your daughter to love you that much and tell you that says volumes. And for you to love her just as much and to stop and start get your shit together, that's impressive. So at what point did you stop driving, start working on your mental health, and get linked up with Next 18?
So actually, I worked with a different nonprofit first. I got linked up with them. I was on a vet's fishing trip when I met a couple guys that worked for a place called Dry Hooch,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I learned about peer support mentoring. And I left driving and went and started working with them, which the mission was amazing, but what they're doing and how they're doing it is not right. So
Mm-hmm.
I was there a little over a year and a half, 2 years before I left there. And I went back to work as a dispatcher for a trucking company. And that's so when I was at Dry Hooch, that's when I met Matt McDonald, the founder of Next 18. I met him at a speak out where he was talking, and he had just started his nonprofit. And the only reason I went up to talk to Matt was because he had brought up Fob Shank.
Mm.
And so we went up and we talked, and he told me that he was medevaced out of there, and then he got put. Once he was better, he left Bogger and went back to a smaller base just outside of Shank. Well, of course, I had to call some old school medics up, buddy, and find out who carried him, and it was one of Danny's patients, and who the pilots were and all that, and we got to talking. So I went to his very first camp, and I'm not a golfer, or I wasn't a golfer. Still not a very good golfer, but all right. The look by my wife is I still play a lot of whack-a-fuck, just with more expensive clubs now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my youngest plays golf now, and I bought Laura a set of clubs too. But so when I was working at the last job as a truck dispatcher, my dog died, which that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But I was struggling. I wasn't feeling safe at home. I wasn't feeling safe around my parents. I didn't feel like I deserved to be at their house. I didn't feel I deserved I had what I have. And
Yeah.
Laura came home from work, and for me to emotionally break down in front of her and just start fucking bawling, and it was the first time in 41 years I said, I need help. So she looked at me, and this was on like a Thursday, and uh, you know, my dog died on a Sunday, so I didn't go to work Monday, Tuesday. I went to work Wednesday. Thursday night is when I broke down and told her I needed help. So Friday night, she got home from work. We went and we took a ride, and I remember. I mean, we took like a 3 hour car ride because my oldest is 17 now. She was 16. My youngest is 13 at the time. So they were cool. They were like, "Hey, go do what you got to do with Dad. We'll just hang out here." And I mean, like we drove around for 3.5 hours talking, and pretty much my parents came home Sunday afternoon, and by Sunday afternoon, we had gone through a whole financial plan that you taught me how to build. Working with my sister-in-law, so we went through.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at all our finances. We looked at everything.
Yeah.
Um, and we're like, hey, she's like, leave your job, start calling the VA, and then Saturday morning, she looked at me and she's like, call Matt. She goes, I know he's offered for you to come and volunteer and help. She's like, but reach out and just call somebody. So I called Matt and left him a voicemail. I was like, hey, dude, I'm struggling really bad. I saw you a couple weeks ago. I said, but it's super bad. I said, I really need you to give me a call back. And it wasn't maybe a half hour later, Matt called back and he's like, what is wrong? And I broke down on the phone. I was bawling. And Matt's like, hey, dude, let's meet up Monday for coffee. I'm like, well, I got to work. And he goes, I said, tell you what, I said, I'll meet you. I said, I'm off next Friday. I'll meet you on Friday. I'll be good till Friday. And he's like, all right. So I started talking with Juan Guzman, one of, my other pilots, which talked to Juan about everything. So started building a plan, talking with Juan. My mom and dad got home on Sunday, and it was the first time I looked at my dad and said, I need help. After I said it to Laura, but my mom kind of chuckled and giggled, and she can't see all my facial expressions now. She can't always pick up on everything I'm doing, because my mom's legally blind. And like I reached over and grabbed my mom's hand and kind of like slammed my hand on the table, but her hand on top of mine. And I'm like, I fucking need help. And like my dad turned around and looked, thinking I'm joking, and all of a sudden he would poop. So my dad did 17 years volunteer fire department. And he knows it. He was my go-to guy when I was deployed and I called. He was a lieutenant in the ambulance. He was a paramedic. He gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he saw my face, he sat right down and said, what do you need? And like we laid it out. We laid out the whole financial plan, what we were going to do, how I was going to do things. So I started walking every day and screaming when I was walking. Some days, I put my AirPods in, I'd put on my tunes, and I'd power walk. And people around town, they know where I've been, what I've done. I don't give a shit what they think if I'm yelling or talking to myself when I'm walking. Some days I take the old train track trail, and be by myself in the woods, walking through the woods and stuff. But some days I walk right through town. I didn't give a shit. I had to start helping myself. I jumped down to VA, started picking fights left and right with them.
Yeah.
And then I went back on one med, and that's all I'm on right now. And it's been great. It's been helping a lot. And I'd like to get off it eventually. I'd like to be on no meds. I started getting back out fishing, started getting back out hunting again, spending more time with my kids. My youngest is really becoming a ride or die with me. I can't leave the house without her. If it's golf, she's standing there looking at me. If I take a gun out, she goes, where are we going to shoot? She took hunter safety course. I took her on her first deer hunt this year for the youth hunt. I think she's addicted. She didn't shoot nothing yet, but regular gun season. No, I got a battle buddy with me, and I'm okay with it.
What advice would you give to the people listening and struggling with mental health issues right now? What advice would you give them?
Don't be quiet. Reach out and ask for help. That's your first step. That's going to be the hardest step you're ever going to do, is to flat out say you need help. It's okay to cry.
Oh, it's okay to cry, man. I tell all my friends, and I'm noticing now, the older we get, the softer we get. It's a real thing, man.
Fuck, I cry and drive.
Hey, do what you got to do, brother. What does Cory want to be remembered for?
Just being a good dad and a good husband. I'm as honest as they'll be. I may be a little, maybe known as an asshole for being it, but I ain't gonna lie to you and I ain't gonna bullshit you. You piss me off, I'm gonna tell you. You
Yeah.
steer me wrong, yeah, I'm gonna tell you. But I ain't gonna disown you and drop you.
What do you define success? How do you define success?
You know, honestly, I have I have a nice house. I have a great life. My kids don't know what it's like to starve. Don't know what it's like not to have new clothes or get what you want when you want. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe they're overspoiled, but you know, they also know what good manners and a thank you goes a long ways. So if my kids are successful in life and they can live and operate on their own and have a good job, whether they go to college or not, and just be successful at what they do, I'll be happy.
Damn.
I don't have to have a new truck anymore. I don't have to have the biggest lifted truck, Jason. I don't have to have the newest fucking clothes anymore. I don't have to have the biggest fucking watch. It's me, my beard, my tattoos, and my old lady. And that's all I care.
Mm-hmm.
I want my hug at the end of the day. I want my hug and my kiss in the morning. And I want my fucking I love you before I go to bed. And we never go to bed mad at each other. I mean, yeah, you go to bed pissed at me. But we never go to bed without saying I love you and a kiss. We never leave this house without saying I love you.
What's next for Cory?
My new project is how do you make a job out of a nonprofit, right? How do you take somebody else's? So I got called a coattail rider the other day, and I started laughing. So when I got linked up with Matt next 18, you know, in 3 years, I've seen this dude take something great in mental mindfulness, relationships, self healing. Never thought I'd do yoga a day in my life. Actually, really enjoy it. But what do you know about moral injury, Jason? Let me ask you one question today. What do you know about moral injury?
You're asking me that?
Yeah,
Moral injury?
moral injury, because this is one that fucks up every soldier I talk to.
I don't know anything about it.
I got a book on it, and I'll tell you, it's the biggest bruise and kick to the nuts and bruise in your soul, because this is what kills every soldier that you don't know about or that they don't know about. Moral injury is it's similar to PTSD, but it's still different. Moral injuries is it's being told to do something by your leadership that maybe you don't believe in, but you still follow the order and do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moral injury and what I learned on that through Next 18 has changed everything for me in a positive. That's where I learned my hero complex, how it started, when it started. I learned that it's okay to shop for your therapist. I've been through 19 therapists since I've been out of the Army. 19. I have 2 now out of that 19. I mean, I've had therapists quit. I had a dude walk up out of his office and never come back. I had a young kid tell me that I'm so fucked up that there's no way in hell he can ever help me. I made a therapist cry so bad that I think she quit. I literally think she quit being a therapist. I've done these volunteer programs where they want you to sit down and like CPT, you know, and these people want you to work on your PTSD and only pick one mission and talk about your one mission. Bro, I can't talk about just one mission. Jason, I flew over 400 mission in 10 months in Shank. I flew more than any other crew chief. But I had crew chiefs that couldn't. I get it. I get why they wanted to go back to Bagram or go to JBAD or go anywhere else but be where we were at. Warrior wasn't easy. Ghazni wasn't easy. Shank definitely wasn't easy. Fourth deployment, that was by far the rawest, the hardest. I left a part of me there. I worked hard, I played hard. Like I said, I'll never toot my own horn and say how great I was, but I got the chances I got in the Army because of who I am and how hard I worked. And I lost chances because of my big mouth, but I got them back because of my ethics and my drive and my determination. And it that's what's going to get me through life. And if that's the one thing my kids take away is drive and determination and a no fucking give up. Yeah, you're going to fail. Yeah, you're going to screw up. Well, how many times you got to stand up and brush it off? Does not matter. We're in our 40s, bro. We could lose it all and start again tomorrow. And are you going to stop? No.
Just to let you know, I have lost it all. Lost my company. I'm starting all over right now. Starting all over. I'm 44. Still not fighting, not quitting, man. I'm gonna keep fighting every day to the day that I die, because I know the outcome of quitting, and that's something I never ever want to live with. Is quitting, right? Where can people find you?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you come to Kewaskum and you spit out the last name, they'll all point you right in my direction.
I was gonna say, we come to Kewaskum, we know we're gonna find Cory McElhatton, all right? But I'm talking social media. How could people, if people want to learn about Next 18, if they want to reach out to you because and say, you know, how can I get the help that I need? How could they reach out? How can they find you?
So Next 18 is next18.org, and I highly recommend you look it up. We work with everybody from vets, first responders, EMTs, police officers. I mean, you got to check it out. I would love for you to check it out, Jason. Even if golf isn't your thing,
I'll
what we
check it out.
do for one module on relationship status to the module on self-help to the module on moral injury is amazing. I have gone back in the last year and a half. I've been to 10 camps, and now Matt has brought me on as a staff member. And yeah, there's guys out there that know me from when I worked at Dry Hooch and don't care for me because of my hard ass approach, my resting bitch face, because I'm not always the most, I guess, looking approachable guy out there, because that's just my exterior. That's who I've been. It's just something that's hard to break because of
Yeah.
my trust issues. But I'll
Smile a
tell you
little
this.
bit.
But I'll
There
tell
you
you
go.
right now,
There you
dude,
go.
I'll give you my shirt off my back. I'll give you a house
I
to
know you
sleep in.
will.
I'll give you the last dollar out of my wallet. But since I went back and made that phone call to Matt and started volunteering, what it was 3 years ago to what it is today is just so amazing. If you have 10,000 nonprofits in every state, you know there's only 100 that are tried and true. Next 18 is one of them top 10 that needs to be there. I mean, we have amazing staff members. You're never going to be alone. We run 3 peers per group. We run a max of 12 campers per camp, because and it's a 4-day camp, and you're going to get the time. You're going to run a roller coaster. You're constantly going up and down. Your up is your golf. Your down is digging in and doing your mental health. I mean, your mental health. But the shit you learn how to dig up from your childhood, whether you had a great childhood or horrible, even the people that had it all still had it rough and don't realize it, or they still got something that's just beating them down.
Yeah, we all got something.
And I have been on a journey that I have never, where I thought I loved myself 10 years ago when you and I were leaving the Army. It ain't nothing like it is today, brother.
That's good, man.
I have never gone to bed. I mean, shit, I went and did a veteran hunt that's Christian based, but yet just the influence I got from one of the civilians there that I got to hunt with inspired me to start reading the Bible again in 30 years, 20 years.
It's good, man.
And now my youngest is reading it. So I went and bought a different Bible because I wanted to read a different testament. I
Yeah.
want. So I'm Catholic, but I want to see what the Lutheran one says, and
Yeah.
maybe I want to see what a Protestant one says.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the differences. How much is there really a difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I did it deployed and learned in these other countries, why am I not doing it with our own? And to learn the true gratitude of life, Jason, I didn't really open my eyes to gratitude when I changed my language with my wife starting this past June. We're on
Hmm.
a whole different language of talking and openness that is amazing. Like, we've never had this. We're 8 times stronger.
Good. Love that, man. Love that. Do you want any social media you want to put out there
I mean, you can find me
besides
on.
next org?
You can find me on.
X18, sorry.
Yeah. You can definitely find me on Facebook. I think it's either under Cory McElhatton or I think Oscar Mac, spelled with an E for Oscar because somebody else had it with an A. Um, Same thing with Instagram. I think it's under Oscar Mac or else. But like I said, my biggest journey right now is I'm working on setting up a trailer for taking to events and putting all our gear into instead of having to haul it around in the back of everybody's cars and staff members in different vehicles. Um,
Damn.
I was offered the opportunity to hopefully take over all merchandising and turn it from something that's very little into something that's going to be very big.
And I believe you will do that just because the person you are and what I've seen you've do before in the past. But Cory, I just want to let you know, man, I'm very proud of your growth. I'm proud to know you as a friend. I'm proud. I'm proud the moment I met you, I'll never forget. We're in Charlie Company in that open area. And I looked at you and I was like, I think you were a specialist at the time, right?
Yep.
I was like, you're specialist, Mac? And you're like, yeah, just the tough person you are. I just gave you the look. You gave me the look. And we've always bonded ever since there. We always had a mutual understanding. And I've never had any issues with you. You
No.
remind me a lot of my brother. He has a very tough exterior, but you guys are very loyal, very kind, very loving human beings. You just have to take the time to understand that the face, it comes with the territory. It doesn't mean you're an evil or mean person. So I'm proud to call you a friend. I'm proud that you are becoming the man that you're becoming now, even after all that trauma. You're not using any excuses and you're living up. You're becoming that man that your wife deserves, you deserve, your family deserves, your daughters deserve. And just that alone says it just reconfirms the man that I've always known for the last we're coming on 20 years now. We're about 25 years into this now. And it just says a lot about who you are. And I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I appreciate you spending time with me today. You have my phone number. Anything you ever need, call me. I'm coming. You don't even have to give me the details, man. Give me the top 5. That's all I need to know, right? And then I'm coming. So I appreciate you, brother. I love you a lot. I miss you dearly. I'm happy that we got to do this today. And I'll leave the floor open for anything you want to say in parting. But I just want to let you know how I feel about you and how much you played an integral part of my life while I was in the medevac.
Dude, I wish we would have played together. I think we would have had a blast. But I mean, I was skeptical about doing a podcast. I'll tell you that. But I can't feel any more comfortable than sitting down and talking with a brother. You know, I'll never
Yeah.
forget when you came over to the medevac and I walked in the office one morning and said, "Hey, dude," or said, "Hey, sir, here's the deal. Here's what we're doing. This is we're getting fixed." And you're like, I'm not the senior. I said, "I don't care, but there's nobody else in here." You're like, so what's your point? And I'm like, well, this is what's getting done. So I'll be back. And you looked up and you're like, what the fuck? Or like when I lose my cool and, you know, we're in Colorado and I want to grab a W-2 and choke them, and you're like, easy, young buck. I use a few of your lines every day.
I used to say that a lot.
I steal a lot of my Uncle John's lines, you know, when people say I can't. It drives me up a wall. If everybody in this world keeps saying I can't, we'd be living back in caves, never have cars, never have shit.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
My Uncle John was full of one-liners like that. He was one reason why he was a huge inspiration. You know, and like my dad always said, you know, if you're gonna be worth something, be worth your weight in gold. Do it right and do it hard. Don't do shit half-ass.
Nothing half-ass.
And if you know you're right,
yeah, brother,
even when you're wrong, just some days you got to learn to shut your mouth and do it. And then you make a meat curl later. So,
all right, brother. I love you, man. If you need me, let me know. All right, and we'll be in touch. All right, brother.
Yes, take care of that beautiful family, brother. Love you too.
You too. Give Laura a hug for me. Give the girls a kiss for me. Tell them I said hello, and be great. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.